Hey, welcome to episode 57 of the Clive Barker podcast. This one we talked with Elizabeth Howell and Krysi King of official Hellraiser Facebook. It was fun. We don't really get to talk to the other official Hellraiser admins that much. Jose and I are also official Hellraiser admins, but to be honest, Krysi and Elizabeth and Alex do the bulk of the work there for official Hellraiser, and Jose and I will post things only occasionally. But yeah, so we had we had a fun talk about Hellraiser and you know what we like about it, and also one thing I wanted to mention is that we recorded this back on October 24th, so there's been quite a delay between actually recording this and putting it up, and that's just because we had other ones that were a little more time sensitive that we wanted to post first. So, but yeah, anyway, this is episode 57, official Hellraiser Facebook group. Recording now.
That's
okay.
Cool. It's nice to talk to you.
All right. Well,
yes, everybody.
Well, welcome. This is episode 56 of the Clive Barker podcast, and we're talking with the admins for official Hellraiser Facebook page.
Hi.
So,
hi, everybody.
So I'm Ryan, and of course, this also here is Jose.
Yep. Hi there.
And you're Elizabeth Howell?
Yes.
And Krysi King.
Yes.
So you guys have kind of a similar problem to us in that people write to you thinking that you're Clive Barker.
All of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I got an email. I got an email the other day from prison from a guy that said he's been sending screenplays to Clive Barker for years, but he doesn't have much. He's not going to live for very much longer. So he wants Clive to know that he gets the rights to all of his screenplays.
Wow.
All right. Yeah.
I recently announced my engagement on our page, and there were a bunch of people that thought Clive was engaged, and I'm like, no, I'm a moderator, and I'm just announcing my engagement. I'm like, no.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we see people like they're complaining about, I can't believe that you let them do Hellraiser 9. That thing sucked. It's like, yeah, it doesn't really have anything to do with that. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I get all kinds of messages between Alex and Mr. Barker, people trying to get to Alex, people trying to get to Mr. Barker.
Yeah.
It's insane,
and so people
I don't get it, but
yeah.
you just kind of got to play it. You got to play it off and be as cool as you can with it, but sometimes it's a little bit creepy.
And for people out there, Alex is Clive Barker's assistant, and he's set up all of these official Facebook pages with people to help. So
Alex is the mastermind.
And Jose and I are also admins on official Hellraiser, but we don't post quite as often.
Right. We try though.
Yeah.
And there's also an official Lament configuration page on Facebook.
There is. That's
Yes.
Alex as well.
So how many of them are both of you admins on?
I just do the official Hellraiser one.
Okay.
This is Krysi. I only do that one.
Okay. And
I
Elizabeth,
work on the Hellraiser page and a few other ones with Alex.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so what was your first contact with the Hellraiser movies?
I would say I was really young. I was probably, and I'm guessing I was still in elementary school.
Wow.
Because back in the 80s, parents didn't say, oh, well, maybe that's a little too, I don't think that people really saw horror movies back in the 80s the way that they may see them today. So I was still in elementary school when I experienced my first Hellraiser movie.
Wow.
And it was about the same for me. That was I was already in the Barkerverse by then from my mother. My mother was a big fan of his novels.
Oh, cool.
So I would sneak the novels and read them. I've actually got her old, it was like the first edition copy of The Great and Secret Show, and I just kind of kept it. I wrote it and hung on to it. And I should not have read that young, but I did. And so I knew what I was getting into, but I would say probably fourth grade age.
That's great.
My introduction to it.
Right. Yeah, well, the movie came out in 86, wasn't it, Ryan?
87.
Yeah,
87, right. So I guess I was on my way to having, like, my 11th birthday. And I remember that I think it was my brother who brought the VHS home from the video store. And my brother, who was, like, much older than I was, and he was like, this movie is not really for you. And I was like, I really want to watch it. And I turned out that I could, like, sneak into the living room while he was watching it, and I saw some of it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And that was my first contact with Hellraiser. And, of course, then after that, I got it on TV once, and I was, like, looking. I was just zapping around, and all of a sudden I see this guy with no skin wearing a jacket saying, it's Frank, it's Uncle Frank. And I'm like, what the heck is this movie? And that was the time I actually just saw like half of Hellraiser. And from then on, I started looking for that. And then, once I was old enough to rent the movie and finally get to see it on, late night screenings in theaters in Portugal, because it would eventually it would come up to my hometown every once in a while. It's like, hey, it's a midnight screening, it's Hellraiser, and you would see the poster there, and it's like Pinhead holding the box, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to see that one. So it became kind of a tradition because every year I would watch Hellraiser in a film festival, and sometimes they would make Hellraiser 1 and 2 back-to-back midnight screenings in this film festival in close to where I live. So that was awesome. That was a tradition. I started bringing my friends over to the movies and say, hey, come see this movie. It's really cool. Let's go to the film festival. So every year it became a tradition, and of course, went on from there.
That's awesome.
My parents...
I think it's really, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying I think it's really cool how I think, somebody else introduced somebody else. I think it's one of those things. I think that's how the franchise and the work of Mr. Barker himself has become so popular. It's just like somebody, a friend, a brother, your mother, became totally just enamored by his work and was like, hey, you got to see this.
Yeah.
And then you fall in love and you tell someone else and so on and so forth.
My parents didn't really let me see R-rated movies, so I saw them at friends' house. So when I was about 16, Nightbreed just came out. So I went over to a friend's house and I saw Nightbreed there, and the opening where Clive was talking about monsters, and I loved that and the movie so much that I had to go out and find Cabal, and I read Cabal, and then I had to buy all of his books and the Books of Blood, and had to go see the Hellraiser movies. I saw them out of order. I saw Hellraiser 2 first because another friend told me that was better than the first one. So I saw Hellraiser 2, and then I saw Hellraiser 1 on my own. I rented it on my own.
That's really awesome.
It's pretty cool that now some more merchandising is coming up. I'm sorry, I got a bit of a cold. But the Real Clive Barker store, which is realclivebarker.com, a lot of stuff is coming out now, like apparel and apparel and stuff like that. Like there's a Pinhead tote bag now for sale there.
And you can get that design on a T-shirt, too.
Oh, yeah. And you can also get like a baseball cap that says Hellraiser in red lettering. That's pretty cool.
I think it's cool for everyone that's listening, if you've never been to a horror convention, going there, because I know, like myself, I do, like tribute art and stuff, and I've done things in tribute to Hellraiser, and just to see the other people and the stuff that they do, like things that are, one of a kind that you can't find anywhere else, made by fans for the fans, I think is also, something really cool if you want something unique.
Yeah, that's a good point. I bought a puzzle box at Mad Monster Party where I saw the Nightbreed Cabal cut for the first time.
Yeah,
awesome.
weren't there? I think I remember reading something about someone making jewelry boxes out of the Hellraiser box theme.
Oh, that's cool.
That was me.
Yeah, that was you, right? Yeah.
That was me, yeah. I did. I actually, I found these really interesting boxes that open all the way up, and I was like, what can I do with this? And I just started putting it together, and it was just, it was an homage, obviously, because I'm such a fan, but, when people saw them, they were like, I have to have one of them as well. So it was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, and because we're on Halloween, I mean, a lot of pictures that have been shared on Official Hellraiser have been Pinhead pumpkins, which are just amazing to look at. And in fact, I'm looking at one of them right now, which is kind of weird, because this guy, what he did is he got a pumpkin and he painted it white or whitish color, and then he took a photocopy of Pinhead's face, stuck on it, and put pins all around it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty cool. And you got these fans coming up with these amazing things like little baby dolls that they convert into little baby Pinheads, and all sorts of stuff. I mean, fans' imaginations take this in directions that Clive Barker never would have imagined it.
I did
you guys see
Hellraiser pumpkin last year, but mine, the nails were too big. They were like 6-inch spikes.
Oh, that's great. Did you guys see the Breaking Bad Hellraiser mashup art? I can't think of the artist right now.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's
unbelievable. It's
Heisenberg.
like the Walt Pinhead. Yes, It's just great. We have been so fortunate to have come across so many amazing artists working with these pages, and I know that Alex and I get a lot of submissions, would you please share this on one of the pages? This is my Candyman art. This is my Pinhead art.
Yeah.
And, it's unbelievable what people can do, what comes out of their minds, and how Mr. Barker's work inspires them. And even to go on into their own work that's out of the Barker realm and into their own creativity. It's just amazing. I love getting the artwork.
And
that's one of the perks of this is just getting to be the first to see the artwork.
And there are 30,000 people that like that page. Is that right, or is that Clive Barker's? That's 30,000 people.
Yes. No. That would be us.
Okay. Yeah. So sometimes
really, that was a proud moment for us, I think.
And sometimes I see I see the all of the private messages that come in, and it's like it's overwhelming.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys sort through all that. Every once in a while, I'll see something and look at it and go, okay, I'll share that on there, if nobody else has done it already.
And even
my favorite thing, I was going to say, my favorite thing recently was a gentleman had posted a picture of his daughter with a Pinhead bust, and I couldn't help myself. I was like, do you mind if we post it, because she's just so darn cute? And of course he was thrilled.
Go ahead.
No, what were you saying? No, I was just saying he was thrilled, he said that she said that she was going to be famous, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
yeah. And a thing I'd like to explain is that we have 30,000 likes on the page, but the actual impact of the page is much larger, because when we look at the admin panel, you see the people who have saw the reach. And for example, for like this week, we had like 141,551 people who saw the posts. So these people will share them on their on their feeds, and they will all the other friends that they have will look at this as well and share that. So it's kind of a cascading thing. It's really cool to see how many fans are out there, and they just love to share this stuff. And if I can go back to what Elizabeth was saying, the Breaking Bad Walter White Pinhead mashup, there's actually 2 of them now, because there is one that was made by Ed Ondo, which is the one where you see Walter White with the pins and the little periodic table symbols on his head. And there's another one. That's been done for a company that makes T-shirts. I'm not going to advertise for them, but it's a bluish-looking Walter White. He's got like the grimace going, and then he's got the pins. I'll add the link to the picture in the show notes, because it's really cool.
Cool.
I think the coolest thing is when we see tattoos. That people are getting, Hellraiser tattoos or Nightbreed tattoos. I know for a fact, my fiance has several pieces that are, from Mr. Barker's work, and we've posted them on the page. And I love seeing when people submit their work to us, because that's forever, and that is like a real commitment is to have a piece of artwork on you forever. So it's my favorite, I think, when they post that.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, didn't Alex start a horror tattoos page also?
Yes, that's another one that I work with him on, and the submissions that we get for that are unbelievable. We were Matt started up. Alex and I were getting like really. Well, Alex especially was getting heavy into the tattoo world. He's got tattoos, I've got tattoos, and we had gotten so many submissions, and he said, he's going to start this up. Do you want to help out? Sure, why not? And the artwork is phenomenal, and it's from all over the world that we get Hellraiser artwork, Nightbreed artwork. The Nightbreed artwork especially has been just gorgeous. You look at it and you think, how long did that take? And it's so painstakingly beautiful. But we've got a really neat. I'll find it and send it to you guys. There was a guy, I believe it was in Brazil, that had a Candyman portrait of Tony Todd on his leg, and it was just unbelievable, like his entire calf.
Wow, that's commitment.
That's beautiful.
What's in the page name? Because I'm trying to think. Is it a Horror Inc? Yes, Horror Inc. Exactly.
INK.
On Facebook. That's cool. So yeah, I've seen obviously Pinhead tattoos are the staple at the official Hellraiser. And some of them are just amazing. There are some weird ones, though. I mean, once I saw a Pinhead tattoo that it's an elephant's head covered in pins for some reason.
Yeah.
And that is really strange. I'm trying to figure out what kind of mindset the person had when they designed that tattoo. I for the life of me, I cannot figure it out. But yeah.
That's art. The same.
Yeah, it's just an elephant's head, elephant pinhead, and the elephant is pretty realistic, but for some reason it's covered in pins. I'll add that one to the show notes as well.
So, Elizabeth,
the personal touch that people add, I think is really unique. It's like maybe they love elephants, but they also love Clive.
And I think that a thing that people need to understand about official Hellraiser is there's not a lot of Hellraiser news right now. So these, the people that are just subscribing because they're waiting for news, I mean, that's, there's not a whole lot going on. And frankly, I'm not really excited about the Weinstein Company doing any more Hellraiser movies anyway.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence about it. And we'll see, as it unfolds. But just keep your fingers crossed that Mr. Barker will have involvement in that.
Yeah.
When everything's actually set in stone and we know more about it, it could turn out to be one of the most wonderful things. I would love to, I have 2 children, to have them grow up, with this, if it comes about, the reboot. And if Mr. Barker's involved in it and
yeah,
it's actually, if it's part of his vision too. That's a lot of the, in my opinion, that's a lot of the problem with what has come out lately. It's more for profit and not for respect the vision, so to speak.
They haven't wanted Clive's input on a Hellraiser movie since the early 90s.
No.
Well, if I can step in and mention something, when the Hellraiser remake thing came about, which was maybe maybe in late 2008, early 2009, I think, if I'm not mistaken. In the beginning, there was plans to keep Clive in as producer, and he wrote a treatment for that remake, and they were going to keep him in as a producer. But then that quickly just got thrown out the window when the Weinstein started getting different teams to work on the script, and they were looking for writers, looking for directors. They were trying to pair people up,
and it
then
kept getting cheaper and cheaper too. It seemed like
at one point they had a French team, a French duo who did Inside and
Martyrs, I think.
Martyrs, and then they had Patrick Lussier as well, and then there were a bunch of people involved. And every time I heard the news,
and the guy who did Drive Angry was one of them too.
Yeah. I have a picture of that guy from Twitter. He's
I find it frustrating that, and I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, but I think you guys would agree that how can you do a reimagination of someone's vision without at least their input? I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's just a thing where it's just about making money. They make them as cheap as possible because they know that people are going to go see them no matter how how terrible they are.
I would like to be optimistic, I really would, but I think that any idea of a reboot or a remake at its fundamental core involves the safety of a fan base to make a profit. It's pretty much just like brand recognition. They know that it's not a gamble. They know it's not a new thing that they have to figure out if people will like or not. They know that people like Hellraiser. So they're like, let's just remake it, and people will flock to it.
Or before that, they just take some other movie and put a Hellraiser bumper sticker on it, and
that was true. Yeah. That was quite true. Yeah, they had that thing with the sequels where they were just writing Pinhead into them as kind of a Deus Ex Machina character. Came in at the end, wrap everything up with a neat little bow, and say, "Well, welcome to hell," and that was a Hellraiser movie. Yeah. And it really suffered because of it. Yeah. But who knows? I think the greatest thing that could happen would be, at this point, an adaptation of the Scarlet Gospels. That would be amazing to me. But,
it's going to depend on the success of the Scarlet Gospels, but I would think that would be the smart way to go. Can you imagine the Scarlet Gospels comes out and it's successful, and then the Weinsteins make something stupid like what they did with Revelations? I could see that happening, though.
You never know. Yeah. It's there's nothing better than reading a book written by a fantastically imaginative creator and imagining it in your mind. You make the best movie that you could ever come up with in your mind.
Yeah.
But then when it's actually being filmed, it's like a team effort. So there's input from everybody. There's changes done. There's all this stuff. So it's always a little disappointing when it's a favorite book. That's why I personally would not like to see an adaptation of Imagica, because I think I would be heartbroken if a movie for Imagica is ever made they're going to have to throw out a lot of the story. And it's like, I'm going to be heartbroken because I love that story so much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, but also movies can color the way that you read books too, right? So if you're reading, like when we read the Scarlet Gospels, we're always going to see Doug Bradley in our mind as Pinhead, even though the Pinhead from The Hellbound Heart doesn't look like that.
Right.
Good point.
Right.
And we're always going to see Harry D'Amour as Scott Bakula, I think.
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
And
Can I see like everything as Scott Bakula? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's also a Star Trek captain, so that's pretty cool.
Yep. And a quantum leaper.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know, right? But, I think that it's, there's a part of me that would love to see, because back obviously in the 80s, the technology in filmmaking wasn't the way it is today. So having Mr. Barker work on a reboot would be amazing because there's things that he could do now visually that just weren't even possible back in those days. You know what I mean? I think that is like the best thing would be to see it like the way he saw it when he wrote it, like in his head.
Yeah. But there's so many things that get in the way.
Budgets.
Yeah, well, budgets and studio heads that want their own input in there just because they want something to stick their name on and said, I did that part of the movie.
Yeah.
I have a little complaint about the adaptation of Hellraiser to movies, which is they always have to be done with some kind of rating thought into the story. So if my personal Hellraiser movie would have really messed up stuff in there that you couldn't really put on a silver screen, and that's something that I think that's something that I think is really, you really need to have some messed up stuff on Hellraiser movie, and sometimes it's not easy to put that in a movie because it's going to have an R rating, or it's going to be
well, and
if it hasn't.
Yeah, I think with the first Hellraiser, there was some stuff in the Hellbound Heart that was you kind of bring with you when you watch the movie and you say, oh, okay, well, he was able to come back because he ejaculated on the floor, but it's not in the movie. But it's not even really hinted in the movie that happened, but you can bring that with you if you've read the story.
Well, consider the baptism. Consider the baptism of Cabal in the book.
Yeah. Well, and Baphomet doesn't even look the same in the movie. Right.
Although I will give you that what you said earlier. It's true that movies sometimes can give a lot of color to a book, like Cabal. I mean, the breed aren't really described in detail in the book at all. They're very vague, and then in the book, it just made them come to life.
Yeah,
I mean the movie. It made them come to life. So
try reading Cabal now without thinking of Anne Bobby and Craig Sheffer too.
Yeah,
exactly.
So so do you guys have any special or interesting Hellraiser memorabilia that you'd like to mention?
I actually do. I have recently acquired a Pillar of Souls that, from what I understand, who we got it from, it was actually sculpted by one of the sculptors from the movie. It was from someone's private collection, and we had acquired it. And we also got a couple of really cool pieces of artwork with the laminate configuration on it recently, which is really, really cool. I think we posted it on the Hellraiser page. I believe that we did at one point. I'll have to repost them because they're really, really quite fascinating. And we just, as soon as we, my fiance and I saw them, like we had to have them because we have a huge love for anything that Mr. Barker's ever done, but I think Hellraiser is really near and dear to my heart. So those are three new things that we just acquired, and I'm really, really pleased with them.
Cool. Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I would say everybody has a signed book, of course, but I have a copy of Sacrament that was signed when I was 16. That is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. I got to meet him that day. That was like the highlight of the highlight of my life.
So that was like 95, right?
96.
96, okay.
Mm-hmm. And he took time out to actually sit and talk to me. It wasn't just here, sit with me, take a photo, and, shoo on. He sat and talked to me, asked me how I knew his work. I mean, it was amazing. And that's probably my favorite piece. Of course, I've got a Hello Kitty Decker tattoo. That's the pièce de résistance. That's my favorite. But numerous Pinhead statues, all of the what was the screen model kits that came out.
Yeah.
Put together. I would buy those and just put them together, and
those are expensive to get
every
now.
detail. Oh yes, and
those are pretty rare. Yeah, I have one
a few
of
boxes.
Pinhead. Yeah,
those are like 18 inches tall. They're really big.
Yes, and back in the late 90s, I mean, we'd have the beauty of the internet like we do now. So you had to actually. I ordered from Fangoria. They would have. The back of every Fangoria, they had all the different horror ads, and so that's how I got into those. But just my house is full of Barkerverse memorabilia.
Where was the Sacrament?
Those are a few things.
Where was the Sacrament signing that you went to?
Davis Kid Bookstore, which I don't even think exists anymore. It's downtown Nashville.
Okay. I went to one in Seattle. Actually, two in Seattle, because they were one right after the other on the same day, or 2 days apart. And actually, that was one of the first places that the person that I married, I took her to a book signing. Which is not really a good thing to do for a date, but that's what we did. 'Cause it's like, you want to come stand in line with me for 3 hours?
And hold these books for me.
Yeah.
It's a good way to talk.
Yeah. Well, it was great.
Yeah, I love I think the best thing that I have, one of the best things that I have for Hellraiser memorabilia is that NECA Pinhead statue that's really, really tall. It's just so amazing. I love looking at that thing. I still keep it in a box. Sometimes I would put it out on a shelf. But then I get really scared that it's going to break or get dusty, so I put it back in the box. That's one of the things that I love the best. I got like 4 or 5, Lament configuration boxes. Some of them are musical, some of them aren't. It's pretty cool. I have a star box, the one that you can just take apart and stick it back in. And
wow.
Yeah. I actually, that box that I own, my friend Johnny Q, he made a couple of Hellraiser fan films, Hellraiser Prophecy and another one about Hellraiser Deader. And I sent him the box for him to do the fan film of Hellraiser Prophecy, so that's in that movie.
Oh, cool.
He used it as a prop.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and, it's a bunch of stuff. I never really got much into the whole NECA action figures, though. I
did.
Yeah. I think I have I'm saying I never got much into it, but I have 4 or 5 of them. I guess I have the box set where you can change Pinhead into Elliot Spencer with the torture pillar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have
cool.
that one, the little diorama. And I have a Pinhead from series 1, I think. I have a Julia that you can stick the bandages on and off. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I think I also have a limited edition Chatterer, the one without the scars on his face, the one that I think they call it Chatterer 2. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
It's like the Chatterer that we see in Hellbound later in the movie, where you can see his eyes. So I have that one. I think it was a limited edition, 300 copies or something. And what else do I have? I have the one that spewed the fire in Hellraiser 3, Barbie.
Oh, yeah.
Barbie Cenobite comes with different faces that you can stick on him, and one of them is like blowing fire out.
Is it full of lighter fluid?
No. More like, shit, gasoline! But yeah, I have some of those. I never really got much into the resin models and kits because I can't build those things, and I can't even paint them.
Mm-hmm.
So I never got much into it. But I do have one of those screaming models. They're really cool. I have a Pinhead holding a hook and stretching out his hand like he's trying to grab someone. And actually, I got that one from eBay. It was already fully customized and painted, and
oh, cool.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, but they're really expensive and rare. So if you guys got like screaming models out there, that's I'm jealous because those are pretty cool.
Well, my Hellraiser collection is pretty much autographed stuff. I have the first edition, paperback of Hellbound Heart, and I have the 25th anniversary hardcover of Hellbound Heart autographed. I have posters, 2 posters. One's autographed by Ashley Lawrence, and the other one is Clive Barker and Nicholas Vince and Simon Bamford and Ashley Lawrence and Claire Higgins.
Yeah.
And then let's see. I have one of the puzzle boxes, one of the musical ones. And Hellraiser the movie. I have the DVD tin is autographed on the manual part of it, and I have the
Laserdisc.
The Laserdisc, 2 of the Laserdiscs, the box set Laserdisc and the regular Laserdisc autographed by Clive Barker and by all those same people, and
with the script, right?
Yeah. Oh, and the Hellraiser script. Yeah, I have that autographed.
Yeah, we just got that too.
That's cool.
But not signed. We just acquired that actually in really, really, really almost mint condition. I wouldn't call it mint condition. It's slightly worn, but we just got the Laserdisc with the book complete, and it's beautiful. I mean, really beautiful.
Yeah, that's a really nice set. I love the cover, the way it's got the raised profile of the pins.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, since we're all Hellraiser nerds out here, have you guys ever read the unfilmed version of Hellraiser 3 by Peter Atkins, where a rogue priest summons Pinhead in a church and then they create a hellish brothel?
No.
All right.
No.
I guess I got another 2 people to send that script to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We did an episode about it, which was pretty fun.
Oh, that's an amazing script. I'm gonna mail it to you guys after this. It really is funny, and there's Le Marchand. He shows up there as well. And this was like back in the day after like Hellraiser 2, they were trying to come up with a new direction for the series because of course they planned originally to have Julia become like the recurring villain, but of course Claire Higgins had other plans, and she wasn't interested in becoming like a horror queen franchise thing. So they were like, okay, let's focus back on Pinhead. And this Pinhead would be very different from the one we got now. This would have been like a complete reconstruction of Pinhead because he would be reborn, so to speak. So his suit and stuff, it would be more like a pope's robes. Wasn't
it also like an insect carapace?
Yeah, some parts of it were going to be more like a black carapace on his body as well. It would be like really, really cool, and it would have been pretty awesome to see this instead of Hellraiser 3. Although I still have a place in my heart for that movie, of course.
It's one of those things you just kind of have to.
Yeah,
you just can't. You kind of have to love it. It's the first time that I saw 3. I honestly, I was just like, no, thank you.
That's how I felt too.
I mean, it grows on you. We wouldn't have been exposed to the Pillar of Souls had it not been, in that respect of.
Well, that is
having,
cool.
Having
it is cool looking.
showcased in a film. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another cool thing about the NECA set. The second. Mm-hmm. Second series, you could collect all of the if you got all of the characters, you can get all of the pieces to put together your own Pillar of Souls.
Oh, I see.
So
but then you have to have all those horrible Cenobites.
You too can have your own Pillar of Souls.
Oh my god!
But I actually do have that.
Then you have to have like the
Terry
Cenobite and the JP Monroe Cenobite.
Were they in the NECA series? I forgot about those. Yeah. It's the first season was each little figure brought a face of the box. So there were like 6 figures, 6 faces. You'd construct your little Lament configuration. The second one was, like you said, Elizabeth, it was the Pillar of Souls, right? It was like 4 sides, top and bottom. So those were the 6 pieces. And for the third series, I think it was a giant light-up Leviathan, I think?
Yes.
Like in the diamond form, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Even though we never saw Leviathan again after Hellraiser 2.
Unfortunately, yeah. I would have loved to see more of that. Yeah.
There's so much there that they could have drawn from. In Hellraiser 2, there were so many unanswered questions and so much interesting stuff, and they just threw it all away just to make weird movies.
In the movies, yes, but then they elaborated more on the comic books in the 90s. That's where it really grew. That was cool.
I would have liked to have seen more of the Engineer.
Yeah, me too. I love the Engineer.
He's so awesome. I mean, that's such an awesome character.
Even though you can see his wheels, I still love the Engineer.
And you really
can. I have a couple of images of the Engineer in Hellbound. It was scrapped. He was supposed to come across Julia's skin when it's on the floor, and Kirsty and Tiffany are running around. There are some pictures of the Engineer in Hellbound. I'll send it to you guys afterwards.
It's amazing to me that movie was so tight, the budget was so tight on there, but they constructed or brought back the Engineer and actually shot him, but then didn't use it in the movie.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
That happens for every single movie. There's always stuff they shoot that never makes it to the final cut.
Who was it? Was it Doug Bradley that said that there were that in Hellraiser 1 that there were these like little monk cells that would come out and they would live in those cells while they're supposed to live in those cells while they're in hell, and then and that was all filmed in Hellraiser, but then they didn't use it. That's what he says. But there's never been any footage that we've seen.
No, yeah. One of the things that annoys me, I don't know if this annoys you guys too, is whenever some discussion about Hellraiser is going on, and there's always someone who comes up with a picture of Pinhead and the
in
female
the surgery
Cenobite
mask.
In the surgery mask.
Yeah.
And say, hey guys, has anybody ever found this footage yet? It's like, I really love to see this scene, and you have to go and you have to tell them all over again. No, that was never filmed. Doug Bradley has confirmed it several places. It was just something they took pictures on sets because they couldn't figure out a way to do the special effects.
Yeah.
So,
that may be the most common question that I get from any of the official Clive Barker sites or pages. Even, Candyman, I have gotten messages regarding that image.
Oh, well, on Candyman?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try to keep up with that. Alex is so busy that I try to keep up with it the best that I can to keep messages to a minimum. It's hard to do, but that's the kind of stuff you get and you go, really?
I have a pat answer for things on Occupy Midian that I put as an admin there that I just keep in Evernote, and whenever somebody asks, when are you going to do a screening in my town? Then I have this pat answer that I just paste in there. And it amazes me that nobody ever stops and goes, didn't you just write that like 3 posts ago? They're always like, oh, thanks for the information.
Yeah. But it's so cool. I mean, once you start chasing the white rabbit down the hole and the whole Hellraiser thing, it just takes you in so many different places. I mean, I remember when Clive Barker mentioned, like, who created the Cenobite outfits, and it was his friend Jane Wildgoose at the time. She's the one who constructed and designed the Hellraiser suits, and she said that what Clive Barker did was, and she has a website where you can read this. She says that what Clive Barker did was he gave her some magazines, some copies of this magazine called PFIQ, which was called Piercing Fans Quarterly International. So I saw some of those issues. It's pretty out there. It's pretty, some stuff is really very, very, how should I say, fascinating, because it's basically a magazine about piercing. So there's articles on how to pierce properly, piercing care, how piercing changed my life, stuff like that.
Jeez.
So, yeah. So, yeah. It's not just piercing, but also like stuff that involves BDSM, like, chastity belts and stuff like that. There's some pretty strange stuff out there. And this was all stuff that he gave to Jane Wildgoose, and she looked it over, and, she designed it, which kind of reflects a little bit of that dungeon subculture that existed back then. So that
was part of his scene back then.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was.
I am totally fascinated with, and I know we touched on this earlier, how fashion is still being influenced. I mean, how many years has it been since the original, like the very first Hellraiser came out, and how fashion is still extremely influenced by these characters.
Yeah. Well, and another thing, I know when official Hellraiser first started, there were lots and lots of, somebody was posting lots and lots of pictures of people suspending themselves through holes in their skin and stuff.
That would be me and Alex.
Okay, yeah.
I actually was really heavy into that for many years, and
so have you actually
did suspensions.
You've done it?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and I'm a mom now. I have to stay on that side, stay on that side of the fence. But
it's hard to reach for your kids when you're hanging.
When you're suspended, yeah. So we were. Alex is really into it too, just fascinated. The art form can be beautiful. It can be wildly disgusting, and it can be beautiful at the same time. Just as in the Hellraiser.
Yeah, which is definitely a Hellraiser aesthetic, for sure.
Yeah,
yes.
so
spiritual too.
Yeah, so I guess you were into that whole mod blog thing. That there was the mod blog from Shannon Larotte, where you could see all that stuff every week. They would have posts about, eyeball tattooing, power pulling, suspension.
It can get so extreme, and it can get extreme to the ridiculous extreme, which a lot of the suspension does. But we still post suspensions from time to time, but we would get so much flack from people reporting us and negative comments and all that. Yeah, and I'm like, you're on the official Hellraiser page, and this sends you.
It just doesn't make any sense. People, some of those people out there, they just want sanitized, safe stuff. Like, I just want the corn syrup blood. I don't want the real stuff. It's like, you should do some introspection and think what fascinates you about the Cenobites, because you might find out there are some parts of yourself that are a little, scary. And that's good. That's fine. I mean, that's okay. You just need to make peace with those parts of yourself. It's like, I remember I got into this stuff thanks to Hellraiser, and I figured out things about myself that I was like, oh, this is pretty, that explains why I'm fascinated with this or that. Like, there's like the father of modern primitive movement, which I heard his name from Clive Barker. It was this guy called Fakir Musafar. And Fakir Musafar is this guy who did a lot of stuff, like piercing, suspensions, corset wearing. Corsets aren't just for women.
Oh, no.
Men can use them too, but it's just, there's a lot of stuff out there that you can get into. And even if you just start going into like Eastern mysticism and stuff like that, like India, where they do those things where they pierce their cheeks and they pierce their skin with like long needles and stuff, and they just parade themselves like that. This kind of stuff resonates deep within mankind's secret heart, I guess.
I think the thing that I love about Hellraiser 2 is that it's really a kind of a domestic story about this messed up family, and then, oh yeah, by the way, here's these demons. And they're not traditional looking demons. They just look wrong, like something's not right, and they're so calm and dispassionate. And I think that all of that wasn't gotten right in the sequels. I mean, even Hellraiser 2 to a degree isn't the same as the first one. I mean, I really like Hellraiser 2, but the first one is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, as much as I like Shenard and Hellraiser 2, I think of him as kind of an anti-Cenobite, even though people say, oh, he's directly linked to Leviathan, and that's, he's Leviathan's instrument. Yeah. And I'm like, but he doesn't act like it. And it's just...
They're not supposed to be doing, like, Freddy Krueger puns and stuff.
No,
I like the very persuasive... I almost feel like there's almost like a persuasive tone in their voice.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very... Like, they're doing, like... pretty horrible things to people, but it's in this, like, almost soothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not, like it's so effortless to them because that's
and Pinhead seems
what
like
they're offering you.
He seems like he's bored, and he's doing a duty that he's not really that interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the first times I got exposed to stuff like suspensions was back when I had this little sticker collection when I was a kid about the West. And there was one particular sticker in that collection which was about the Oki-Pa, which is the Sundance, which involved like some of the braves from the tribe. They would hang themselves with hooks from their chest, and they would hang themselves up in a tree like that for like hours. And you guys are familiar with that?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So the Oki-Pa ceremony, that was probably my first introduction to this kind of like suspension stuff and like this out there, pretty, far out stuff that people would do to put them in a different headspace. Because basically I like Hellraiser, but I don't, unlike Ryan here, I don't care so much about the characters, like the family story. I was always in it for like the Cenobites and what's behind that and what's behind the veil across the schism. What's
I
out
like
there.
I like the not knowing. I like that it's so mysterious.
Yeah,
I think that's what drew me to it. It's like it's just so crazy and unexplained.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
I think if they explained everything, if they didn't leave something up to the mind, the imagination, I think people would grow bored.
Yeah.
It's what you don't know.
Yeah, and the sequels, like especially the later sequels, the stuff they don't even understand what they're trying to, they don't even connect to each other, and they're not even trying to explain things in a way that makes sense in a consecutive way. Like they don't build off of each other. They don't have any kind of meaningful continuing story.
Right.
No continuity whatsoever.
Yeah, except for the first four. Yeah. The first four tried to have a continuity. Yeah. And then...
That's why I like the expanded continuity of Hellraiser involving the comics and, the other stuff, Hellbound Heart. And now the Scarlet Gospels, which apparently is coming out from St. Martin's Press next year, which is going to be awesome.
Yay!
That was great news. Now people can stop asking, when is the Scarlet Gospels coming out?
Yeah.
Well, it's coming out next year by St. Martin's Press.
Actually, in gathering my feedback and questions for this episode, that's one of the ones we have. We can do those now if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so let's see. Hanzo Hasashi said, "How did you come up with the puzzle box?" So that's like what we were talking about earlier. We're not Clive Barker.
No, we're not.
No.
But from what I've heard, if this helps, Clive Barker had some sketches done of the box, and he has mentioned in several interviews how I think it was his grandfather or something who was a sailor, and he would bring back these little Chinese boxes, which kind of fascinated him.
Yeah.
Because you might have seen those Chinese puzzle boxes that are like you have to push here and push there to open up the little box. So there are those secret boxes. Usually they use them for jewelry stuff. But anyway, back to he made some sketches of what he thought would be an interesting box for the movie, because in the book it's just a black lacquered box with nothing on it. It's just, 6 black lacquered faces. But for the movie, I guess they try to make it a little more interesting. So he had some sketches done, and then an artist called Simon Sacy, actually based on that feedback and input from Clive, he created the lament configuration.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that I posted on the official Hellraiser that shows that when the box is actually solved in the start position, those splotches and blots that decorate the face, they actually turn into the engineer figure. So,
Really?
Again, yeah. I never told you that. I posted that on official Hellraiser once, and I posted a picture of the box, not solved, then solved, then I isolated the engineer, and then I put a picture of the engineer next to it so people would know.
Oh man,
so
I want to find that now.
I'll add that to the show notes, and I'll mail you guys this image.
Yeah, if you don't look at official Hellraiser every day, you're going to miss out on stuff because it disappears so fast.
You'll miss out on
it. It takes hours by hours sometimes.
yeah, exactly. The next one, let's see. Jeff Tomashuna says, will you be doing another Hellraiser with Doug Bradley? So, yeah, again, we're not Clive Barker or the Weinstein Company.
Right.
But if we were to speculate, I would say no. Not because there's anything wrong with doing a movie with Doug Bradley. It just seems like the Weinstein Company kind of ruined it with Hellraiser Revelations. And it doesn't seem like there's any going back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine, I know it sounds funny, but I mean, like we talked about earlier about like when you see, when that character, when you're reading the books, it's like you see Doug Bradley. Like I couldn't imagine seeing somebody else in that role.
Yeah. I could see a Hellraiser movie that had different Cenobites. That would make sense. But trying to recast Doug Bradley just because they love the Pinhead character so much doesn't really work.
Well, you just look at what they've done with The Evil Dead. They couldn't bring Bruce Campbell. Well, they could have. It would have been awesome for me, but they couldn't bring Bruce Campbell back into this reimagining.
I didn't see it. Did you like it?
Oh yeah, absolutely loved it, and I think
they did a good job.
Going to.
Yeah, because there are so many more examples of bad remakes than there are of good remakes.
Oh yeah,
I don't want to overstate the obvious, but also there's something that Doug Bradley is getting a little older now, but that would work too, because I guess Pinhead should be a wise figure, so
yeah.
Maybe we can have like an older Pinhead that would work.
Older than he was in like 200 years in the future in Hellraiser 4.
Right. Yeah. That's when it starts getting tricky.
I have this. I've not seen it, of course, but Kevin Yeager says that it was supposed to have been such a different film, and that it was destroyed. Yeah. And I would love to see exactly what it was or what he wanted it to be, because I love Kevin Yeager.
Have you seen the work print?
No.
It's a little different.
Oh, yeah, there's a work print of Hellraiser 4. We discussed it once. It emerged a few years ago in a forum. And I actually had, I talked to the person who got the tape, and we got a copy going. So it's really cool. If we'll have to get a copy of it to you guys one day. And it's kind of like the Cabal cut of Nightbreed. It's got like 40 different well, not 40, but like about 30 minutes different footage. It has a completely different ending.
Mm-hmm.
It has like a lot more segments in the past and in space. And it doesn't go back and forth like the theatrical version did. It's pretty interesting. I'll see what I can do in helping you guys get a copy of it.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool version. There's like a scene in the future where there's like a merchant is talking to a holographic priest before he attacks Pinhead, and it's like there's crazy stuff there. Like you see crazy stuff, like him shaving his head right before he opens up the box, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Robert Nelson said, I remember reading about a Pinhead Demore crossover in which Pinhead's real name was revealed. I'm curious as hell as to the status of the story. So that we can talk about. That I'm assuming he's talking about Scarlet Gospels, and that's going to be published in winter of 2015 by St. Martin's Press. I don't know about him saying Pinhead's real name. Do you remember that note or that being a thing?
For Scarlet Gospels?
Yeah.
Maybe that does ring a bell. I remember Clive mentioning stuff like we would see the city of the Cenobites and like the fallen angels, because I think for some people this might be a little bit different from what they expected, but from what Clive has said about the Scarlet Gospels over the years, it's going to connect the Cenobites to fallen angels. Lucifer and Jesus will be in the book, and hell will actually be the Judeo-Christian hell of damnation, I think. So we'll be checking the progress of a group of people in hell with Demore, and I think there's a dog in there as well. So I don't want to spoil anything else.
Yeah, well, and it started out as a short story, and it's been revised a few times, so we don't really know what the final product is going to look like.
Right.
Yeah. And then David was asking basically about Hellraiser Origins. So that's right now it's a pitch, right? They made a little trailer with some artwork. And there's artwork, and there was a shoot where they had a whole bunch of people stacked up like bodies on the ground.
Yes. Well, yes. Hellraiser Origins, basically it's done by a Hellraiser fan. He's also a concept artist. His name is Paul Gerard. And I think his intention doing this was try to pitch himself to the Weinsteins as kind of like...
Well, I think originally he tried to pitch it to Clive Barker, right?
Yeah, I think originally he thought that he should pitch it to Clive Barker, but then people were telling him, no, you need to talk to the Weinsteins because Clive Barker's not involved with that. So I think his idea is to try to pitch himself as a possibility for the Hellraiser remake. Whether or not this is going to be successful, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I see that Pinhead has a sword in this trailer, and there's all sorts of like artwork that's been coming out, and there's a trailer coming out on the 31st of this month. So let's wait and see what kind of stuff we're looking at.
Yeah, and from the Labyrinth.
Mark Buckle from the Labyrinth.
Buckle. Yeah, and that was it for our feedback and questions.
I personally, I just would love to put it out there so that if people, that are fans of the page are listening, I know that I've said it on there more than once. I feel really honored to have been chosen. I was actually chosen by Alex to be with all of you, which I'm honored to work with all of you as well. Being such a big fan was just to have been in the right place at the right time, and I take it very seriously, as I know all of you do as well. It really is a privilege to be with so many like-minded people, and I know that we all try to bring our own personal flavor to the group, to give the fans something interesting to read or to think about, or I like to ask a lot of different questions just to keep the group engaged. And it's all for the love of doing it, and I would like to publicly thank Alex and all the other moderators for being so welcoming to me.
Yay.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you, Alex.
Yay.
And congrats on your engagement as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. It's actually a total sidebar, but it is actually on YouTube if you guys want to see it. It was a very public proposal at a zombie prom.
Can you send
I
us
saw the pictures, yeah.
Can you send us a link and we'll put that in the notes?
Absolutely. I will. I'll type it right now, and you guys can see it. But yeah, it was very cool, and we're getting for everybody that's been following, we're actually getting married next Halloween. So.
Oh, awesome! I was just going to ask about Halloween plans next. I was going to ask you guys. So, anybody here planning to dress up for Halloween or come up with any Cenobitical disguises or anything?
Actually,
yeah.
I've gone through that. I think I've maxed out my Hellraiser Halloween points.
Yeah.
It's that has been ongoing since like 14, 15 of anything that I could think of, even my own Cenobite creations. But this year we're going Kubrick this year in my house. So my kids are druids. So my oldest is Alex, my youngest is Pete. Oh, no.
Please say again, Elizabeth. I missed that part.
Oh, my oldest is going to go as Alex and Clockwork Orange. And they're droogs this year. So my oldest is Alex, the youngest is Pete.
Awesome.
So we're going Kubrick instead of Barker. I think Mommy has kind of like worn out the Barkerverse. So, and this is like my last year to actually make them do what I want them to do. Next year there'll be a fight, I'm sure.
And because they're minors, you can still take them to the milk bar.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, that's pretty cool.
Oh man.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today, and for all the hard work you guys put into the Hellraiser page. It can be pretty, repetitive every day. Try to come up with stuff for Hellraiser and stuff, and I understand how much of a passion you have to have and a drive to be able to do that every day. So, thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Here. And I wanted to make sure that I said also a big thank you to Alex. I know he wasn't able to be on this discussion, but he is just an incredible person and does so much for everybody involved, and just puts himself out there, puts his heart out there. And just wanted to say thank you for Alex, because he's giving me the opportunity to work on so many things with him and to be involved with so many things with him. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
We love Alex.
We do. Alex is awesome.
And he's a great defender of Clive Barker, too.
Yeah.
He really is. He really is. He has so much adoration and respect for him and his work. And you have to respect his work first. And a lot of people don't get that. Yeah. And he catches a lot of flack. A lot of people want to, stretch Mr. Barker this way, do this, do that. Please endorse this. Please do this. And
read my screenplay.
Oh, God.
Yeah. He's very protective. You can see it in a lot of Alex's posts, both on his own page and on other pages he's involved with, that he is very protective of Mr. Barker, and that's a really admirable thing. Like, you can tell that not only how much he respects his work, but how much he respects Mr. Barker as a man and as an artist. So that's really, really touching. And that's why I think I love working with Alex so much. I know Elizabeth would agree with me on that one.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks both of you for coming on. We really appreciate that.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
All right. I'll send you guys some goodies in the mail, and maybe we can discuss them some other time.
All right.
That would be great.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
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 Bandwidth for this episode was provided by Bradley Gartz. Thanks again, Bradley. He was actually the winner too of our raffle contest. So yeah, congratulations, Bradley Gartz. He's also had a lot of great questions on past episodes. So thanks again, and thanks for listening. You can reach us on the web at www.clivebarkercast.com. Please leave us a review. We're on iTunes, Podomatic, Xbox Music Store, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Double Twist, BlackBerry, and Pocket Cast. You can find us on Facebook or join the Occupy Midian group on Facebook. On Twitter, we're at BarkerCast and at Occupy Midian. The forum is www.clivebarkerfans.com/forum. Theme was by Colin Lakativa.